That Massey bloke honestly has abused the rules today to, quote, interfere with the world title fight. That man wanted a last lap of races, but it's not about what Massey wants. Welcome to the zone, fellas. Today we're obviously going to be discussing the last race of the Formula One World Championship. I don't even know what to say. That's probably... I've watched Formula One now for like almost 30 years. That's probably one of the most unbelievable things I've ever witnessed. I'm still almost in shock at what's happened, so I don't know how the team are feeling. I don't know how Lewis Hamilton is feeling. I'm going to struggle to sum up into words what I've just witnessed. So there's going to be obviously some Max Verstappen fans or just anti-Lewis fans that are very, very happy that someone else has won the championship. I want to get two major things out of the way first. I think Max does a lot of dangerous driving. If you disagree, that's fine. It's the internet. We can all have different opinions. If we want to talk about like the first incident, in my opinion, I think Max Verstappen has basically gone in an entirely straight line, put a very little left-hand turn onto the car, and has basically said, listen, I'm gonna cut you up, and you're going to have to leave the track. Yes, I'm going to slam my brakes on and technically stay on the track. So, you know, I have overtaken you, but I think he's forced Lewis well off the track, and he's basically said, I'm about to carve you up if you don't leave the track. Lewis Hamilton manages to stay sort of composed. He drives off, stays in the first position, and eventually that situation is dealt with. Okay, that whatever, however you feel about that, that wasn't the deciding factor in this race. The deciding factor of this race was to do with the FIA and safety cars, and also, to be honest, Mercedes, and you could say arrogance or incompetence or lack of tactics, because I think Red Bull have had the superior tactics throughout this championship. But let me say this. Regardless of whether you feel they should have pitted or not pitted or done other things with Bottas as a blocker, that again wasn't the end result. That wasn't the thing that cost them everything, right? They've obviously done their little initial pit. Then they're asked again, listen, if there is a safety car, Lewis, what tyres would you prefer? Now, this is obviously to get Lewis on his preferred tyres. So if anything was to go wrong, Lewis isn't going to say, why did you put me on those tyres? So they ask Lewis, if there's a safety car, what tyres do you want to come in on? The safety car happens. They don't bring him in. Max immediately comes in and takes advantage of it and cuts down his lead. Now, regardless if this is a Lewis or Max situation, I know this happens all the time. I still don't like it when a car is, let's make up a imaginary figure. Let's say a car is 40 seconds ahead and the pit takes 24 seconds, right? They should be coming in 16 seconds ahead. Now, I know the safety car takes a small chunk of that off, but they never quite come in at the same distance. They always gain. And I feel like gaining under a safety car, although it's a thing, I understand it, I've watched Formula One for years, I still dislike it. I also dislike the fact that Bottas throughout this race was just, I don't know what he did. I thought he performed awfully, and Mercedes didn't use him. There was times where Perez held up Lewis, yet there were times in the race where there was a 24-second gap, and if Red Bull had to pit, they knew Bottas would be out in front of them when they came back on the track, so they couldn't pit. So they didn't. However, Mercedes then brought Bottas in, which then freed up Red Bull to do whatever kind of tactics they want, and Bottas was then swimming around in 6th, 7th, 8th, trying to get through the pack, and he just didn't do anything. You compare the performance to Bottas and, you know, Perez, it was night and day. Bottas didn't feature, and that's down to the way Mercedes used him, right? And I don't think Mercedes' tactics were that brilliant. But again, we're not even got onto the controversial thing here. The controversial thing that everyone wants to speak about, and rightly so, is the end of the race. So let's say Mercedes' tactics were wrong or right. All we can say is come the end of the race, they were 12 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, basically. So regardless of all of the tactics, all of the incidents, come the end of the race, they are 12 seconds and a few laps away from winning the championship, right? So how on earth can the race restart and Max Verstappen be almost on his inside racing line about a millimetre away? Now, I understand how in Formula One this works, right? In Formula One, it's kind of like once the car sets off, it's game on, it's race on, and you can pretty much, as long as if you're behind the bloke, then you're behind the bloke, and then the race begins. But we all know in reality and how it plays out, it's not Lewis being ahead by 12 seconds, then the race restarts, and 12 seconds later, Max Verstappen then sets off. No, the cars bunch up, and they don't just bunch up and have a nice one car length between each other. Max Verstappen is right on him on fresh tyres because of the tactics and just the pure fluke/luck of the incident that happened. And Lewis can do nothing to defend it. And let's be honest, I think even if Lewis was on brand new tyres come the restart of that race, I don't even think he wins. Because what ends up happening is the race restarts, Max Verstappen is right on him, he overtakes him, and he actually overtakes him too early, if you notice, and he sort of goes a bit wide because he dives for the overtake so soon, and Lewis has a chance to come back, but because there is no DRS enabled for 2 laps, and obviously there is not 2 laps remaining, he has no DRS, and he just pitifully drives to the end of the race, and he's lost. So what has ended up happening for this race is there has been 2 safety cars that have basically gained Max Verstappen about a minute, and on the last incident, he's 12 seconds ahead, yet the race manages to restart wheel to wheel as if all of those other laps didn't matter. All of the 58 laps, or however many laps it was, didn't matter because it came down to Max Verstappen was allowed to restart the race on Lewis Hamilton's inside, ready to go and ready to overtake. And I just can't believe it. But we're not even done yet, man. Not only is it ridiculous that under safety cars, he's basically gaining like a minute total, they're not even following the rules. They're not even following the rules. So the cars, here's what happens. The cars should have to clear. Now, they radio in and say, listen, Red Bull, if we follow the rules here, like you want us to do because you don't want any cheating, if you want us to follow the rules, what's going to happen is the cars are going to clear, they're going to have to rejoin, and by the time they've got round and rejoined and everything's sorted, the race will be over. That's it, championship over, you've lost. So we want a racing lap to manage the race, make an exciting championship, put our input into it, whatever they want to do. So they let the cars clear, and then they just fucking instantly restart the race. Safety car comes in. It's a mad moment. It's not even like they're going around and they're explaining to the drivers, look, this is what's going to happen. They're going to clear. Next lap, safety car's going to come in, and then we're off. Lewis, we've fucked you over, but here's what's happening. It's like in a split second, the race restarts. Mad Max is on the inside, outside. He's overtaken him, and it's just game over. I actually really honestly feel like that, whether it was cheating, incompetence, or them trying to manage the situation, here's what I feel like is going to happen, and I'm a massive Lewis Hamilton fan. I feel like he's going to retire. I feel like Lewis Hamilton, I've seen people online say that the FIA favour Hamilton and all of this. I honestly feel like ever since the days of, people will remember the incident where Hamilton says, well, maybe it's because I'm black, like he repeats that Ali G meme line. But honestly, I honestly feel like Hamilton has been fucked over his entire career, and just through his insane will and driving, he's managed to keep winning and winning and winning. And that right there was as clear as day as I've seen cheating. So they call up Mercedes and say, what the fuck has just happened? There is a rule here. It says, if the clerk of the course considers it safe to do so, and the message lapped cars may now overtake has been sent to all teams via the official messaging system, any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety cars. This will only apply to cars that were lapped at the time they crossed the line at the end of the lap, during which they crossed the first safety car line for the second time after the safety car was deployed. Having overtaken the cars on the lead lap and the safety cars, these cars should now proceed around the track at an appropriate speed without overtaking and make every effort to take up a position at the back of the line of the cars. Whilst they're overtaking, and in order to ensure that it must be carried out safely, the cars on the lead lap must always stay on the racing line unless the clerk of the course considers the presence of the safety car still necessary. Once the last lapped car has passed the leader, the safety car will now return to the pits. If the clerk of the course considers the track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, the message "overtaking will not be permitted" will be sent out via the official messaging system. That's 39.12. Now, a key word in all of this from the FIA is the "any" and "required." Not the ones Michael Massey has decided are the most important. That Massey bloke honestly has abused the rules today to, quote, interfere with the world title fight. That man wanted a last lap of races, but it's not about what Massey wants. It's about the rules, right? You can say everybody in the world wanted a last lap of racing. That doesn't matter. If you're playing a game of football and it's a World Cup final and it's 1-0 and all of a sudden they hold up 90+3 and it's the lead, it's a great game. There might be an equaliser. The team that are 1-0 up are on the ropes. The referee doesn't go, well, I'm sure everybody would love to watch another 10 minutes of this, so let's just give it 10 minutes because we don't want it to end like this. You follow the rules. You can't just make up. Massey just can't make up the rules because he wanted a racing lap. They've clearly selected who they wanted to be the winner in my eyes. There's no way. To me, I'll be honest, and people might find this dramatic, I feel like the sport died, mate. If that is allowed to happen, there's literally no fucking point of the sport existing. You've got a racer that was clearly superior, had the fastest car, had a massive lead, and through a safety car that was no fault of Lewis's, he has ended up in a last lap, basically drag race with a guy on new tyres with the inside line and he has no DRS to come back. You can brush it however you want, sweep it under the carpet. Those are the facts. I honestly feel like a part of that sport died. Because the thing is, if you set off and you're a brilliant racer and you get minutes ahead and some random bloke on the track crashes, you are penalised beyond belief, which happens all the time. I've watched 30 years of the sport. But if this is now the case, if you can do all of this, nip in, get 2 sets of tyres, change this, oh, by the way, the cars are overtaken and now they're not. I honestly, be honest, I feel like a portion of them didn't want the most championship wins ever to be Lewis Hamilton. That's honestly the way it felt. And I feel like Lewis Hamilton might retire off that. I don't know. I've just got a suspicion. That it might happen. Those are my thoughts. I don't really know what to say. I maybe haven't been very clear in my communication there. I don't know how the F1 fans feel, but I just wanted to hop onto the mic and camera and just really explain what has happened. Time and time again, Max has basically said, listen, I am taking this corner, and if you try to defend in any rational way, you will smash up your car. That clearly indicates that Max is driving in a ridiculous way. Also, Perez. Can we just touch on Perez? I know Bottas was awful, but even Perez, you can say he defended brilliantly and it was a superb drive. But let's be honest, that shouldn't have happened. Like, he was being dangerous himself. I honestly have no words. I'm unbelievably disappointed It's going to take a while for me to get over, to be honest. I don't know how Lewis is going to recover from that, but yeah, that was, I have no idea what just happened. Many championship drivers were on there saying it was ridiculous. You've got George Russell saying it was ridiculous. I just can't believe what I've just witnessed, man. I really can't.